There's an Amish grower in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, who has never once complained about not having enough garden space. Not because he has acres, because he never needed them. For generations, his family has grown more food on a single back porch than most modern gardeners pull from full in-ground beds. Not as a workaround, as a system, passed down deliberately, from hands that understood something the gardening industry has spent decades trying to sell back to you. Certain vegetables don't just tolerate a pot. They produce more in one. Science has confirmed what that Lancaster County family never doubted. Root restriction triggers fruit set. Container soil warms faster. Disease cycles that devastate in-ground crops never start. The math doesn't just favor the pot wins. Today, exactly which 9 vegetables those are, how to grow them, and why the Amish knew this long before any university put numbers to it. Stay through to number 7. It will permanently change what you think is possible, from nothing more than a pot, a porch, and the right seed. Vegetable number 1. Peppers. Here's what the Amish figured out about peppers generations ago, without a single soil lab to confirm it. Peppers don't want a big garden. They want a tight space. When a pepper plant's roots hit the walls of a container, a simple 5-gallon pot is all it takes. Something switches. The plant stops pouring energy into leaves and stems. It redirects everything into fruit. More peppers earlier in the season, from a smaller footprint than any in-ground row would give you. Containerized peppers also warm up faster in spring. Cold soil is the silent killer of pepper production. In a pot, that soil warms weeks ahead of the ground. Earlier warmth means earlier harvest. A longer season means more food on your table. Recommended varieties: Apache, Shishito, Padron, compact, prolific, proven in containers. 1 5-gallon pot. 1 plant. More peppers than most backyard rows produce. The Amish didn't call it horticulture. They called it common sense. Vegetable number 2. Cherry tomatoes. Number 2 pays you back more than almost anything else you can grow, and it pays you back better in a pot. Cherry tomatoes. And I mean that financially. Research puts container cherry tomato yield value at approximately $9.63 per square foot. That's not a gardening statistic. That's a return on investment most people never see from their ground beds. Here's why the pot wins. In the ground, every heavy rain splashes soil pathogens onto the lower leaves. Early blight sets in. The season cuts short. In a container filled with a clean potting mix, that disease cycle never starts. The plant stays clean, stays productive, and keeps fruiting straight through to the first frost. There's a second advantage the old farmstead women understood without knowing the science. Consistent moisture. Uneven watering in the ground makes fruit expand too fast, splitting the skin wide open. In a pot, you control every drop. The result is unblemished fruit. Every time. Varieties: Tumbling Tom for small pots. Sungold or Sweet 100 for larger containers. Daily harvests. 0 cracking. From a pot on your porch. Vegetable number 3. Carrots. Number 3 is where most gardeners give up without ever understanding why they failed. Carrots. And the ground is almost always the problem. Here's what happens when you plant carrots in native soil. The developing root hits a pebble, a clump of clay, a patch of compaction, and it splits. It forks. It twists into shapes no grocery store would ever stock. Woody, bitter, unharvestable. And the gardener blames themselves. The Amish never blamed themselves. They controlled the soil. A deep container filled with loose, stone-free potting mix amended with perlite gives a carrot root exactly what it needs. Unobstructed downward space. No resistance. No forking. The root drives straight and smooth, developing the sweetness that only comes when the plant isn't fighting its environment. Containers also break the root knot nematode cycle that silently devastates in-ground carrot crops year after year, destroying harvests that never even show symptoms above the soil surface. For shallow pots, Parisian Market or Thumbelina. Round, compact, extraordinarily sweet. For deeper containers, Danvers half-long, the classic carrot most people have never actually tasted fresh. Perfect carrots aren't luck. They're container grown. Vegetable number 4. Potatoes. Number 4 will surprise you. Most people look at potatoes and think, field crop. You need rows. You need space. You need a shovel and a strong back. The Amish would disagree. Potatoes are one of the most productive container crops that exists, and the harvest method alone is worth the switch. In the ground, harvest day means driving a fork through the soil and hoping you don't slice the very thing you've been growing for 3 months. In a container, a fabric grow bag, a barrel, a heavy bucket, harvest day means tipping it over onto a tarp and collecting every clean, undamaged potato by hand. No tools, no guesswork, no ruined skins. The growing method is just as elegant. Start with a few inches of potting mix at the bottom. As the shoots climb, keep adding soil. Every inch of buried stem becomes a new stolon. Every stolon becomes more potatoes. The container concentrates what the ground spreads thin. Pre-sprout your seed potatoes on a windowsill before planting. The old-timers called it chitting, and you'll add weeks to your harvest window. Variety to start with: swift. Early, compact, and built for this. We're halfway through. And the next 4 vegetables are where things get genuinely surprising. The first half showed you what containers do for roots and fruit. What's coming shows you what they do for timing, and timing, as every old homesteader knew, is the difference between eating and going without. Quick question: how many times have you replanted the same tomatoes, the same basil, the same peppers? Every single spring? Same cart, same garden center, same cycle. What if you only had to plant it once? That's literally the idea behind Plant Once, my perennial starter checklist and zone guide. Find your zone in under 5 minutes. Know exactly what to plant first. And build a garden that comes back year after year, without you lifting a finger every spring. Plant it once. Harvest it for years. Links in the description, or scan the QR code on your screen to get your copy right now. Let's stop starting over. Vegetable number 5. Radishes. Most people treat radishes as an afterthought. Filler crop. Something to tuck between the real vegetables. Radishes have a secret that makes them one of the most strategically powerful plants in a container garden. Seed to harvest in 21 to 25 days. That's not a growing season. That's a decision. The problem with ground-grown radishes is heat. The moment soil temperature spikes, the plant bolts, turning woody, hollow, and bitter almost overnight. There's nothing you can do about it. In a container, you move the pot. Morning sun for fast growth. Afternoon shade when temperatures climb. You control the environment the ground never lets you touch. The result is sweet, crisp radishes, exactly what the Amish kitchen expected. Harvested in 3 weeks, replanted immediately, producing all season long. Vegetable number 6. Lettuce and salad greens. Number 6 quietly saves more money than almost anything else on this list, because it's the crop most households buy every single week without thinking twice. Lettuce, salad greens, the grocery item that wilts in your refrigerator before you finish the bag. Here's what a container changes. Lettuce roots go no deeper than 6 to 8 inches. That's all they need. A shallow pot, a window box, a trough on a porch railing. Any of it works. And what in-ground lettuce can never escape is soil splash. Every heavy rain drives pathogens from the ground straight onto the leaves. In a container, the leaves stay clean, elevated, untouched. But the real advantage is what every old farmstead grower understood about leafy crops. You don't harvest lettuce all at once. You take the outer leaves. You leave the center growing. The plant keeps producing for weeks from the same container, the same potting mix, the same small footprint. And when summer heat arrives and in-ground lettuce bolts bitter and useless, you move the pot to shade. The harvest continues. Varieties: Little Gem, Tom Thumb, Salad Bowl. 1 shallow container. Fresh greens on demand. No grocery bag required. Vegetable number 7. Eggplant. Number 7. The one I mentioned at the very beginning. Most gardeners in northern and coastal climates have written eggplant off entirely. The plants sit in cold ground, barely moving, producing almost nothing before the season ends. They've been told it's a warm climate crop. They've been told they don't have the right conditions. What they don't have is the right container. Here's what the research shows. and what observant homesteaders understood long before any laboratory confirmed it. Eggplant is deeply thermophilic. It doesn't just prefer warmth. It requires it at the root level. Cold soil suppresses nutrient uptake no matter how warm the air above gets. A dark-colored container solves this completely. The walls absorb solar radiation all day. The root zone stays warm. The plant responds the way it was always capable of responding: vigorous growth, heavy flowering, consistent fruit set that in-ground plants in the same climate never achieve. Beyond production, container eggplant is genuinely beautiful. Deep purple stems, lavender flowers, glossy fruit, varieties built for containers. Pot black, Hansel, fairy tale. One dark pot, the crop you gave up on producing. Vegetable number 8, green onions and scallions. Number 8 is the one that costs you the most money for the least reason. Green onions, scallions. The bunch you buy at the store, use half of, and watch go slimy in the refrigerator before the week is out. Here's what a single shallow container changes permanently. Green onions root in just 6 to 8 inches of soil. A wide, shallow pot holds dozens of plants in the same footprint as a single houseplant. In the ground, harvesting them cleanly without disturbing neighbors is tedious work. In a container, you reach in and pull exactly what you need. But the real mechanic, the one the Amish kitchen relied on for generations, is cut and come again. You harvest only the green stalks. You leave the root system intact in the potting mix. Within days, new growth pushes up from the same roots. The cycle repeats for months. Research confirms what farmstead kitchens already proved. This continuous harvesting loop would rapidly exhaust an in-ground bed. In a container, you manage it. You sustain it. Varieties: white Lisbon, purplet, one shallow pot, fresh alliums every week. For months. Vegetable number 9, beets. Number 9. I saved this one for last deliberately, because beets do something no other vegetable on this list does. 2 harvests. 1 container. Every other plant here produces one thing. Beets produce 2. The root and the leaf. Both nutritious. Both edible. Both from the same pot, the same potting mix, the same square foot of porch space. The old farmstead kitchen never wasted a beet green. While the root was still swelling underground, the outer leaves were already going into the salad bowl. The most efficient use of a container that existed, and most modern gardeners have completely forgotten it. In the ground, beet roots deform against stones and compacted clay, turning woody and fibrous before they're even harvestable. In a loose, well-drained container mix, the root expands perfectly. Symmetrical, tender, sweet in a way that store-bought beets never are, because they were harvested weeks before you ever touched them. Cold-resistant and frost-tolerant. Beets extend your container season further into autumn than almost anything else on this list. Variety to grow: bull's blood, deep crimson roots, striking purple foliage, ornamental and edible simultaneously. 2 harvests. 1 pot. Nothing wasted.